And it appears that China's economic tentacles also wield significant influence at this year's Australian Open tennis. This is breathtaking. By now, you would have heard of the widespread concern for the well-being of Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai. She went missing after accusing a top Chinese official of sexual assault. While Tennis Australia maintains that her safety is the primary concern, fans at Melbourne Park copped it. Fans were asked to remove T-shirts and one single banner over the weekend bearing the words, "Where is Peng Shuai?" Tournament organisers considered the question political and therefore inappropriate under its conditions of entry. Brisbane activist and Senate candidate Drew Pavlou, who was also running at this year's federal election, posted a video to Twitter showing spectators being approached by security, and then they even called in Victoria Police.
I don't think you get it. Like, this isn't a political message. This isn't someone saying vote the Liberal Party, vote the Labor Party. They're saying this is a female tennis player who's being persecuted, and Women's Tennis Association has spoken out for her. And they're just simply speaking up what the Women's Tennis Association is saying.
Yeah, I understand.
So where's the political message?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. However, Tennis Australia does set the rules, and regardless of what you're saying, and I'm not saying you can't have those views, but I am saying that Tennis Australia sets the rules here.
I spoke earlier to Drew Pavlou and asked him how this confrontation began.
On Friday, a number of activists, including my colleague Max Mock, who's running against Gladys Liu in the city of Chisholm, they went to the Australian Open wearing shirts just like this one, "Where is Peng Shuai?" Just simply asking the same question Naomi Osaka, Serena Williams, the Women's Tennis Association have asked. Just basically querying the whereabouts of this famous tennis star who, faces terrible persecution in China. And the response of the Australian Open was quite remarkable. They actually tried to force these activists to basically strip right then and there in public. They said, take off your shirts right now, we're going to confiscate them. And when they wouldn't do that, because obviously it's undignified, when they wouldn't do that, then they called the police in, and they used police kind of to intimidate these young activists who were committing no crime. They were simply wearing a T-shirt, asking, "Where is Peng Shuai?" It's a question on the lips of millions of people around the world at the moment. Journalists have asked players this at the Australian Open, and so why can't fans just simply wear a shirt, raising awareness for this innocent woman who is facing the hardest time in her entire life right now?
I couldn't agree more. And I know their rules are that if it's commercial or if it's political, you can't have banners or anything on clothing that illustrates that. But this is not political. It is not political to try and hope that a famous Chinese tennis player ends up back on the circuit and we wonder why she's not there.
It's not political. It's not election material. It's not like it's a banner saying, all praise is due to the great father, Mark McGowan of Western Australia. It's not a banner saying down with ScoMo. This is just a banner. These are shirts and banners that are just simply asking the same question that Serena Williams, Naomi Osaka, the Women's Tennis Association have asked. People just want to know where Peng Shuai is. And it's ridiculous. The Chinese government expects the entire world to go along with this attempt to erase her from history. And we all know Peng Shuai. We all know she's missing. We're not going to go along with these ridiculous censorship attempts by this totalitarian government. They can't extend censorship here to Australia. And it's sickening that the Australian Open would put its Chinese corporate sponsorship before the life of Peng Shuai, an innocent woman who is in the fight of her life right now.
It's a case of being concerned about a missing person. It's not a case of complaining or protesting against a political party. That may be what the conversation's about, but it's certainly not what the topic is about. Can I ask you this? Do you think that the Australian Open, given their reliance on Chinese sponsorship dollars, have decided that that won't be permitted to appease the Chinese?
Of course. So the security guards knew what to look for. They came and set the police on these activists. How do these security guards know what to look for? I don't think, look, Peng Shuai is a famous case, but I don't expect every security guard at the Australian Open to be well versed in geopolitical, in these great geopolitical conflicts. I think basically they've briefed security on Peng Shuai. They've anticipated that people might bring up her case, and they've briefed security to watch out for anyone trying to raise any awareness about Peng Shuai at the Australian Open. And they take $25 million a year, the Australian Open, from Chinese corporate sponsors. That's to say nothing of the broadcast rights, which are worth who knows how much, who knows how many millions are at stake there. The deal with the Chinese state-owned liquor company that sponsors the Australian Open, that's a $100 million deal over 5 years. So clearly what Australian Open is doing is they're putting the money before the safety of female tennis players, a female tennis player who has raised basically a Me Too case. She's basically spoken up about a terrible case of sexual assault where a Chinese government official sexually assaulted her. And Tennis Australia is complicit in these attempts to disappear a sexual assault victim and survivor on behalf of the Chinese government simply because they want to protect their corporate sponsorship deals. And I think that's just completely damning on Tennis Australia.
I agree entirely, and I wonder what kind of ramifications, the way the Chinese are running the story, I wonder what sort of ramifications it has for our own athletes going to Beijing for the Winter Olympics.
Exactly. They're trying to make someone like Peng Shuai into an example, and the entire point of disappearing athletes like this right in the public eye, the entire point of it is to show no one is safe. They're trying to show we will go after anyone. No one is too famous. No one is too high up to face the wrath of the Chinese Communist Party. And that's again the point of going after activists in Australia, at Melbourne at the Australian Open. They're trying to show no one will escape the wrath of the Chinese Communist Party if they speak out against them. And so they're trying to send a message here. They're trying to create a chilling effect where people will be too scared to speak out. And that's why it's so important that we actually speak up even louder. And so what we've done is we've created a GoFundMe page. We've raised $12,000 and we're printing 1,000 T-shirts, same as this one, whereas Peng Shuai. We're printing 1,000 T-shirts to hand out for free at the entrance to the Australian Open Women's Grand Final on Saturday. And if Tennis Australia wants to set police after fans for wearing a simple shirt, raising awareness for a sexual assault victim, an innocent woman in need, if they want to set police after them, we dare them to try evict 1,000 fans from the Grand Final.
You're dogged, Drew, you're dogged. Now, just on another issue, Liberal Senator James Patterson today called on all politicians to boycott the Chinese social media platform WeChat in solidarity with the Prime Minister, who's had his account on WeChat basically hijacked and rebranded. That wouldn't surprise you, would it?
No, it wouldn't surprise me. No one could accuse me of being a great lover of ScoMo, but the principle of this, the fact that the Chinese government can try and censor the ability of the Australian Prime Minister to speak to Chinese Australians is ridiculous. And I call on all parties, I would echo James's calling on all parties, especially the Labor Party, to no longer use WeChat. Do not participate in this platform. This is a Chinese state-run platform. They use censorship. They're trying to censor Australian politics, Australian political discussion. There should be no accepting that. And in solidarity with the Prime Minister, I can confirm I've deleted my WeChat account, Chris.
All right. Drew, Pavlou, thank you so much for your time. Keep at it.